In this section, I'll cover some security related stuff. We'll tweak the SSH daemon, make initial changes to the firewall, and I'll say a few words about leash console, which is specific to Linode. We first need to create a directory for this task. I'll name this one security with subdirectories tasks, files, and handlers. And I'll start with main.yml in tasks subdirectory, which will only contain these two lines. So include sshd.yml and include iptables.yml. Save it and open sshd.yml in tasks subdirectory. You've seen all of this before: built-in copy module, source, destination, setting permissions, backup parameter, and a handler to trigger restart of SSHD so that changes are applied immediately. Save it and open sshd_config in files subdirectory. Here it is, and if you compare this one with the default one on the VPS, all while ignoring all commented out lines or empty lines, you will see that it is mostly the same. All that I'm doing is that I've changed the default SSHD port and that I'm disallowing login with passwords, so only SSH keys are allowed. If you want, you can check this file with comments, and then you can read what option is doing what and maybe play around with it. Save the sshd_config file and go to the next task, which is iptables.yml. Again, nothing new here. Using the built-in systemd module, we'll start and enable the iptables service. And using the built-in copy module, we'll copy our iptables rules over to the server, set permissions with backup parameter, and we'll trigger a notifier which will apply those changes immediately. Save the file and open iptables.rules in files subdirectory. If you check how iptables.rules looks currently on the server, we can see that there aren't any rules. All chains have accept as their policy. Our first iteration will look quite similar to that, with one or two changes. In filter table, I'll change the policy for input chain to drop, and in order for us to be able to access the server after I do that, we have to allow access on port 44422, which is the new SSH port we defined in sshd_config file. If you have a static IP address, you can use a rule like this. That will allow SSH only from that IP address. If you don't, it's not a big deal. By using SSH keys only and by moving the SSHD to a custom port, you've eliminated basically all of attacks. The only thing you should be worried about with this setup is if someone is really out to get you, but if you have to worry about such state-sponsored attacks, you are probably not watching this course. We'll also allow ICMP protocol so that our host is pingable from the outside world, and we'll add a rule for related and established packets. Since network traffic is generally a two-way street, we need this rule so that the server will allow return traffic for already initiated connections, and we'll reject everything else. That's it for now, but we'll keep returning to this file to add additional rules as we go on. Save this one and open main.yml in handlers subdirectory. Since both SSHD and iptables are systemd services, these are practically identical. Save it, open setup.yml because we need to add this new role, which is named security, same as the directory we defined it in. And while I'm here, I'll comment out these previous roles to save some time on the following Ansible runs. Save this file and in virtual environment run Ansible playbook. Since I've commented out the previous roles, all that we can see here now is the new security role. There's the SSHD config stuff, IP tables rules, and since there were changes made on the server, both handlers were triggered. If I now try to SSH to the VPS to confirm these changes, connection refused. If you remember, we had defined our host in .sh config file. And since there is no port defined here, SSH command is trying to use the default port for SSH, and that is 22. We need to add a new line here and specify the port we defined in sshd_config. That is 44422. Save this file, and if I try to SSH again, it works. That confirmed that SSH daemon changes were applied, and if we check the etc iptables.rules file, we can see that it does match the one we've defined in files directory. And if we run iptables-vn L, we can see that the handler really did restart the iptables service and that the rules were applied. One last thing I want to say here is that if you ever cut yourself off from your VPS, either by misconfiguring the firewall or SSH config, you can always go back to the Linode website. In the sidebar, click Linodes, and next to your Linode, here in this drop-down menu, click Launch Leash Console. It will open another window with access to the VPS shell, and in there you can make necessary corrections. So if you've made some mistake in iptables.rules, you can edit it here, make the corrections, save the file, and restart the iptables.service, and you're back in business.